Welcome back. Today, we're jumping into the deep end to talk about just how fragile time really is. We're going to explore how one tiny little misstep in the past can cause, well, devastating, reality-breaking consequences. So let's kick things off with a pretty fundamental question about time travel. What is the real difference between just changing history and completely breaking it? You might think it's a simple distinction, but as you're about to see, the line between them is, frankly, terrifyingly thin. All right, Act I. Let's start by looking at the two most famous outcomes of meddling with the past. You've probably heard these terms thrown around, but you might not know just how closely they're connected. So, on the one hand, you've got the butterfly effect, right? This is the causal ripple. You go back, you step on a bug, and when you return, the future is this bizarre, totally unrecognizable place. But then, on the other hand, you have the grandfather paradox. That's a whole different beast. It's a complete logical loop where you prevent your own birth, and reality itself just breaks. And that is the critical question, isn't it? How does a simple little ripple turn into a paradox that shatters reality? What is the tipping point that transforms one small accidental change into something that completely wipes you from existence? Well, it turns out there's a very specific threshold, and once you cross it, there's no going back. So now let's see how this actually plays out. We're going to use a specific and what seems like a totally harmless mistake to illustrate this. And this is where things get really interesting and honestly a little unsettling. Okay, so just imagine a time traveler. They go back and they make a tiny, simple error. They accidentally cause a 10-minute delay. I don't know, maybe they stop to ask for directions and that person then misses their train. But this tiny delay happens to alter a really important romantic moment between two of the traveler's own ancestors. And this is where that little ripple starts to build into a tidal wave. That tiny time shift has these profound, irreversible consequences, not on some grand historical scale, but at the microscopic, cellular level. It all comes down to a concept called genetic divergence. You see, that 10-minute delay means that at the very moment of conception, a completely different sperm cell fertilizes the egg. That means the resulting genetic combination is totally different. So the person who is conceived is now, biologically speaking, not the ancestor of our time traveler. This is the key. We're not talking about a minor change, like your ancestor wearing a different color shirt. No. Because of that delay, an entirely new and distinct human being has been created, one who shares no direct genetic link to you. And that is the point of no return. This is the moment where that cascade of tiny changes, which all started with that 10-minute delay, finally crosses a critical line. It escalates from just a simple change in history to a fundamental impossibility. Which brings us to the core concept of this whole explainer, the precision threshold. You can think of it as the timeline's breaking point. It's that exact moment when reality becomes so incredibly sensitive that a small ripple, like our 10-minute delay, doesn't just change the future anymore, it triggers a complete and total breakdown in the laws of causality itself. This completely reframes the idea of time travel. It's not some fun adventure, is it? It's an incredible gamble, because the specific chain of events that leads to your own birth is so uniquely fragile, any interaction with it, no matter how small you think it is, risks a full-blown paradox. Okay, Act 4. Let's slow things down and trace the cold, inescapable logic that leads directly from that one tiny mistake to the traveler's complete and total erasure from existence. And here's where the logic just eats itself, creating this perfect, unbreakable loop. 1. The traveler causes the delay. 2. Because of that delay, a different ancestor is born, which means the traveler is never born. But, and here's the kicker, 3. If the traveler was never born in the first place, then they couldn't have gone back in time to cause the delay. It's a circle with no exit. This final, total wipeout, this moment of erasure that happens when you cross the precision threshold, it actually has a name. It's called existential negation. It is the ultimate consequence. It's where your actions haven't just changed history, they've surgically removed the very possibility of you ever having existed at all. So, after all that, what have we learned? What's the big lesson we can take away from this tragic journey, this slide from a simple ripple into a catastrophic paradox? Let's just run through that chain of events one last time. It all kicks off with a tiny catalyst, our 10-minute delay.
This triggers a biological mechanism, genetic divergence. That mechanism is so sensitive it causes us to cross the precision threshold, which ultimately results in a full-blown grandfather paradox and our traveler's existential negation.
So, to make sure all of this sticks, here are the three big ideas in a nutshell. The butterfly effect, that's the small causal ripple. The grandfather paradox, that's the logical barrier that makes you impossible. And the precision threshold, that's the crucial tipping point that turns the first one into the second. And all of this leaves us with a final, pretty unsettling thought. If the chain of events that leads to each and every one of us is so precise, so fragile, that just a few minutes can completely shatter it, then is any interaction with the past, no matter how small, truly safe? Something to think about.